Mixed-use development is a combination of residential, commercial, and retail working together and residing next to each other to create a synergy for an area of redevelopment. The city of Wheat, which is 9 square miles and most of the city is built out, a mixed-use zone district gives us the opportunity and a new tool to actually help us redevelop our commercial corridors and create that synergy of retail, commercial, and residential within the same area.
Traditionally, we zoned by allocating areas to specific types of uses. So all of the industrial zoning properties would be in one area and all the residential properties in another area. The response to that is sort of the suburban culture where you have to get in the car to go to a ball field or to go to a restaurant or to go shopping or to go to work. Mixed-use zoning is a response to that in that not everybody wants to live in that way, and they would like to be able to live and walk to the restaurant and walk to the retail. So mixed use allows both of those things to happen in the same place.
Well, throughout most of human history, people lived in a community where they could walk and get any of the goods that they wanted. They essentially lived in mixed-use developments. It's only been recently, in the 20th century, that we've gotten away from that model.
So here we are in Old Town Arvada, which is the historic heart of Arvada, an area that started developing in the end of the 1800s. And it's a great example of how mixed use was the way that we built our communities long ago, especially before the automobile became as predominant as it is. Some of the features are that you see a lot of buildings that are built right up to the street, so that when you're walking along as a pedestrian, you can actually look into storefront windows and have some activity and interest right at the human level. Another characteristic is that the buildings have a shop or restaurant on the ground floor, and then a few of the buildings here you'll see actually have a second level where you might have offices or residences above. So on one block you can have a whole variety of uses that are easy to access and walk to. Another great feature obviously is the sidewalk itself, which is nice and wide and has amenities like street trees, so that you're encouraged to walk and feel comfortable as a pedestrian sharing the road with the automobile. So this is a great example of a 2-story mixed-use building where you have a restaurant at the ground floor and residential uses above, and a prime example of how these more historic communities were built with this mixed-use development in the past. It's the kind of development, especially this character in terms of height and its relationship to the street, that we would imagine for 38th Avenue in Wheat Ridge. 38th Avenue is identified by a lot of people in Wheat Ridge as the main street, and originally it was built very similar to what we see here in historic Old Town Arvada, with the mixed-use buildings built up to the sidewalk, similar character and scale of development. What we're hoping is that the new mixed-use zoning we're working on will promote this kind of Main Street feel and that kind of development for 38th Avenue. So this is a great example of new mixed-use development in Old Town Arvada. It's a building that has retail at the ground floor with offices above, and it's a great example of how regulation, in particular mixed-use zoning that allows or promotes a mix of uses, as well as urban design guidelines that require some form elements in the building, such as it being built up to the sidewalk and requiring a level of transparency or a certain amount of glass and windows at the ground floor. Those are the kind of elements that we will be looking to put into our new mixed-use zoning code, so that hopefully if we see new development in an area like 38th in particular, we could end up with buildings similar to this, 2 to 3 stories in height, with a mix of uses and a character and form that's really built towards the pedestrian.
Here in Belmar in Lakewood, which is a recently redeveloped site, what you see is a lot of mixed-use development, which the city is trying to encourage along our commercial corridors. What you see here is retail on the first floor, office on 2 or 3 stories above. We're in the process of developing new mixed-use zoning districts that are intended to allow this type of development to occur in the city of Wheat Ridge. But also in this neighborhood is new housing. So there's a variety of housing from townhomes to apartments to condominiums that allows people to live in this environment, again just a block or 2 off of Wadsworth Boulevard, but also be able to walk down to areas like this, potentially to their job, and definitely to shopping and dining opportunities. It's just amazing to see how it's transformed in the last 5 years into this mixed-use, pedestrian-friendly, walkable community. So right here we have an example of the type of mixed-use development that includes residential. So we have, again, retail on the first floor, but 4 or 5 stories of residential above. This is the type of development that we are calling for in our recently adopted citywide comprehensive plan, Envision Wheat Ridge. This could occur along corridors like Wadsworth and Kipling, where we envision a slightly higher density development than what is currently there. We're in the process of developing new mixed-use zoning districts that would allow that to happen. Currently, we don't have a zoning district that would allow this type of moderate density mixed-use development to occur. If it were to occur, it would be a fairly complicated rezoning process that would be a very risky proposition for a developer to undertake. So we're developing new, what we call straight mixed-use districts, which would allow this to happen in a more streamlined and predictable fashion through a public hearing approval process. You can see behind me an example of moderate density residential development. In these new mixed-use districts that we're developing, in addition to very much encouraging mixed-use development that includes retail, commercial, and residential above, we also want to allow for some moderate density residential development as a standalone use. The advantage of having a product like this for the city is that it encourages people to spend retail sales tax dollars. The city obviously wants to encourage as much retail development as it can, but retail requires people, and allowing for a limited amount of moderate density residential is going to support that retail tax base that the city desires. Another advantage of allowing for moderate density residential development is that it can support the transit system. The city of Wheat Ridge is fortunate to have a future commuter rail station as part of the Fast Tracks program along the Gold Line at Ward Road and 50th Place. The city has a sub-area plan for that development called the Northwest Sub-Area Plan that encourages a mix of residential and mixed-use development such as this that would support transit ridership along the Gold Line.
So here we are at Highlands Garden Village.